we are here with Bacon Bagel, Entreprenagel on YouTube. We'll have his link down in the description. He is on the way to doing probably 90K this month, correct?
I think we'll definitely be over 80.
That's exciting. So if you want to take us back, how you got into reselling, how did you even hear about it in the first place?
So it's been a unusual or maybe usual journey. When I was a kid, there were a few random things I found and flipped onto eBay with my parents' help. My parents did eBay on and off, and that's kind of how I first discovered reselling. I think the first item I ever resold was a old school super soaker. I don't know if you ever had any of those as a kid, Seth.
Like the one that like pumps like that.
Yeah, but these had the like water bottle canisters that you'd unscrew, you'd fill up, you'd put them on, and they had the big pump action. They were old school, like maybe manufactured in like the 80s, if I had to guess, maybe earlier. So like a little bit before our time. They were already kind of classics by the time I discovered a couple. I played with one for a little while, and then I was kind of done with it. Wanted to move on to the bigger and better guns, and it was going for like $120 on eBay. And
oh my word.
I had picked it up at a thrift store for maybe $5 or $10. And so as a maybe 13-year-old, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is insane for a 13-year-old. And so you basically sold that gun and then bought other guns for yourself and put it a little to the side for other inventory at some point.
Kind of that clued me in that, hey, there's certain things that are really undervalued in certain marketplaces that can be sold for a lot more if they're put in front of the right audience. And so I think maybe the next cool thing that I flipped as a kid was some Super Nintendos. I picked up my first video game system was a Super Nintendo I got from a garage sale. I got like a whole box set for maybe $40. And that was super exciting. My first video game, played it a ton. And then at some point, I realized how much this system was worth. This was probably like around 2005, 2006. So a Super Nintendo at the time was kind of harder to find. It had been a while since they had come out. And so I sold one or two of those that I flipped from like thrift stores or garage sales for, over $100. And so a couple of small experiences like that. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Never looking back did I ever think like, oh yeah, I should do this full time. No.
I don't know why we like looking back like on the first experiences, like I don't know why we didn't think like, oh, like sold this for 2,000% ROI. Like why couldn't we do this like full time? But it's just like, I feel like it takes like this mindset shift to be like, oh, like there is actually enough of these items out there and like people actually do this for a full-time living.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you're doing the thrift store garage sale to eBay flips, they're all one-offs. And so it's hard to perceive this being a scalable venture. I think that's the big thing, at least in my mind. And yeah, that is really tough to scale to something that's a full-time income if you're doing one-offs from thrift stores and things like that, unless you have some really good source.
Yeah. And so like from your 13-year-old self, you sold that Super Soaker to the Nintendo consoles. What was next from there for you?
Yeah, so then I went to college. I was studying computer engineering, doing Army ROTC, pretty clear career path there. I'm going to go be an officer in the Army for a while. And in college, I found a couple unique opportunities actually on a Bitcoin marketplace. There was like eBay, but for Bitcoin.
Interesting.
So there was a semester in college where I flipped a bunch of stuff. I'd buy it in Bitcoin and then sell it on eBay.
Oh my gosh. That's
yeah.
Amazing.
Pretty crazy. And I made a couple grand, and these were virtual products. So I didn't even have to ship stuff, which is kind of like, you got to be careful with eBay because you're delivering it through the eBay Messenger system. But it worked out really well for me, made a couple grand. And that was, some nice college money that helped me like buy a car and stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah. I'm assuming other people are also thinking this, but I have no clue what a virtual product is. So like, I know my mind went to how in virtual reality where there's like virtual Walmarts and like virtual stores and stuff like that? Was it something like that, or was it like a virtual like software something, or like what exactly was it?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say the exact
Yeah,
product.
yeah, don't give
Maybe I'll tell you
specifics,
later.
but
But think of like a subscription code or a gift card
oh, oh, I see.
where the product is ultimately a digital product, but you need this, 16-digit key in order
Mm.
to download the software or unlock a subscription or whatever it might be. Yeah,
And so there was arbitrage opportunity from the Bitcoin eBay, regular eBay.
exactly.
That is wild. I've never heard of Bitcoin eBay. Is it even still around?
I don't know. And I can't, maybe if I scrubbed through my emails, I could figure out what that site was. I
Yeah,
don't even
maybe.
remember the name of it. I do remember there was one or two like physical products I bought off it, and it like panned out really good. It seemed a little sketchy at the time, like the infrastructure of the site. But I think I bought a Nintendo Wii off there one time, like a whole big set. I got a really good deal. I kept a couple pieces from my personal collection and sold the rest and made money off it.
That's cool. Yeah, so after college, you were in the ROTC for the Army, right?
Yeah.
So there you ended up going into the Army.
Correct. Yeah, I graduated college. There was this kind of weird summer gap before my army training started. Had a couple odd part-time jobs. Then I went full-time active duty with the army, did some training, and then they brought me up here to Alaska and spent about 3.5 years in Alaska with the army.
So what was that like?
It was an experience. When I joined the army, I never had a desire to do a full 20-year career. Just didn't seem
Mm.
like a lifestyle I wanted. And nothing while I was there changed my mind. But there were a lot of really, really cool experiences. The leadership opportunities I had as a young guy with basically nothing on my resume, I was immediately put in charge of 40 to 45 soldiers. And I was their manager. And if you look in like a corporate sector, that's pretty wild.
Yeah,
That's
that
like
is
a
weird.
mid-level, maybe even like a branch manager type position to be in charge of that many people. So I would say a steep learning curve, but I learned a lot about working with people from all sorts of diverse backgrounds, problem solving. Like there's always problems in the army,
Oh yeah.
and prioritizing. And this is really benefiting me from a business perspective now. There's always going to be a million things that you need to do. And a really good analogy I've heard is you're juggling a bunch of things. Some of them are bouncy balls and some of them are eggs. You have to figure out which ones are the bouncy balls that you can let drop and they'll bounce back, but you don't want to drop the eggs.
Wow. You gotta clip that and make that a reel. But yeah, that is such a good analogy for how it is to run a small business, because like you can always have another 10 things to do because there's always progress and like change and learning to do in your business and different things that you can do. Yeah, that's something that I've been working on as much as I can. So yeah, that's cool. And so how did that translate into your business as you kind of got started with? So did after the army, how did that transition happen? Did you kind of like start part-time in the army? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a awkward transition in that it wasn't how I planned it. As I was finishing up my army contract, started looking at what do I want to do next. Some of the obvious choices would be corporate America as like a project manager or some sort of engineering sector, something like that. And I started looking into those jobs and I was like, some of the stuff about those jobs are kind of the same things about the army that I'm not super enjoying. I think I would be happier in that place. I'd have a little bit more freedom and control over my lifestyle. Wouldn't have to move every 2 to 3 years, etc. Maybe there's something even better that would fit the lifestyle and what I want for my family. And so started looking at, well, what if we started running some businesses, kind of go the entrepreneur route. And I had through all these years kind of dabbled on and off with eBay a little bit, selling, flipping things here and there. Nothing significant dollar wise, just kind of like, yeah, maybe a couple $100 this month extra. That'd be cool. So I started looking at, okay, what would it take to do eBay and make maybe 1 or 2 grand a month? And that could be one of our business things. Like that's something I know how to do. And I think I could
Right.
scale it to $2,000 a month. And then we have another business type thing that is a bigger income producing opportunity.
And so what year is this?
This would have been around 2019.
2019, I see.
Yeah. So I started doing eBay a little more heavily, started doing some more thrifting, started building up my inventory level. I think I maybe got up to 200-300 items at some point there. Started doing where I found a lot of progress was some local auction houses. They'd have online auctions. Some of them were estate sale cleanouts or things like that. A lot of people, when they leave Alaska, sell off everything they have because it's just not worth shipping it. So you can pick up some really cool stuff that way. And I used to hop on every auction they had online and scroll through the hundreds of listings, looking up the comps on eBay, things like that. At some point there, while I was kind of exploring eBay deeper, watching lots of YouTube content, all the rally routes, and man, I can't think of the other names right now. Cincinnati Picker. I'm sure you know all the same ones I've watched. If you do a YouTube search, those names all pop up.
Oh yeah.
I discovered 𝗰cie resells and started learning a little bit about Amazon and how he was doing books. And back up a little bit, actually in college, I was trying to get the most for my textbooks. Like you went to college, Seth, so you probably saw this experience.
It's disgusting.
You pay $100 for a textbook from the bookstore and you go to trade it in to get some like store credit at the end of the semester, and they're like, we'll give you $12.50. And you're like, I know, like I can look up, you're gonna sell this for $100 to the guy behind me in line. Like this is a ripoff.
No fees either, just $100 straight dollars.
Yeah, it's insane. So I started looking into, okay, how can I like maybe get 25 instead of 12.50? I sold a few on eBay. At the time, also Amazon had a trade-in program where you could look up the listing of the book you had and they'd say trade this book in for an Amazon gift card, which was pretty sweet. I did that a bunch. Most of my books ended up working out pretty well, and then I'd buy my next semester books with those Amazon gift cards.
Definitely.
So pretty good gig. But at some point there was one that they didn't offer the gift card option, but I found this other button that said sell this on Amazon. I was like, that's weird. And I kind of just went down this rabbit hole and like accidentally created an Amazon account and sold my first book. I think I sold maybe 2 or 3 books. This would have been around 2014 or 2015. And then I did nothing with my Amazon account.
And that's why your account has been open all this time.
Yes. It's kind of crazy that that's supposedly a big advantage. I sold 1 or 2 books in, like 8 years ago, and that makes me better than you.
I 100% agree. You're better than. But it helps with the account health stuff, so that is helpful.
Yeah, here's your title for this video: 8-year Amazon seller.
8-year full-time Amazon seller.
Yeah, there we go. A little misleading, but somewhat truthful.
Yeah, we just got to give the most misleading thumbnail and title we can possibly.
Yeah.
Make it completely clickbait. So you had like some experiences selling the textbooks like early in college, and then kind of got to the end of your army and you're like, like I learned a lot of good things. Like there were some good experiences here, but I would like to have a little bit more freedom and lifestyle. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah.
Like let's start some businesses. So like what was the other business that you guys started? So you started an eBay store and were doing a lot of those like local auctions and stuff. Did you start Turo at the same time, or what was the other one that you guys started?
I had looked into Turo at some point around then, and it just didn't seem feasible with our lifestyle and with my day job with the Army. I didn't really have flexibility to manage a car. And also at the time, it didn't look like, from what I could see, there was too much going on with Turo in the Anchorage area. It is kind of interesting. I had looked into it at one point. In order to try to scale the reselling, I started trying out the used book game on Amazon. getting into that, consuming a lot of book related content on YouTube. It was chatting with Caleb Roth. I can't remember exactly, but he was like, yeah, this is the exact day you started your Scout IQ trial. It was like fall of 2019, somewhere in there. Kind of like a weirdo, like watching me, I guess, from his ivory tower made out of books.
So he messaged you and he's like, you started your Scout IQ trial? I'm confused.
No, okay. It wasn't that weird. A little bit of context. I was on his Books and Bourbon podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
And we were chatting about like how I started and some similar topics. And yeah, he pulled that stat out. I don't know. I guess he has like his
that's cool. I
big,
see.
His big board, and he just like looked my name up.
His book of life.
Yeah. He's watching all of us. If you've ever logged into Scout IQ, he has all your metadata.
Exactly.
So yeah, you asked what other business we were looking at. We were looking at our travel-based business, which we still have to this day. Part of the income we were planning to get from that was planning itineraries for people visiting Alaska, which is something we still do. And the other part that we were heavily investigating was Airbnb arbitrage. You know arbitrage. That's what you do.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But maybe you haven't heard of Airbnb arbitrage. Is where you go and rent a property from a landlord, and you got to get a special clause in there that'll let you basically sublease it. And then you furnish it and you rent it out on Airbnb. And there's tons of opportunity doing that. One YouTube guy in particular that I was really consuming at the time, Airbnb automated 𝗠𝗲 𝗠𝗲. He has... That's
such a long name.
Yeah, yes, Sean. I think at this point he's got several hundred units, and they're all Airbnb arbitrage. So we were looking into that pretty heavy. Was talking with landlords and stuff locally, found a couple pretty convincing opportunities to sign leases with, and then the pandemic hit right before we got to the point of like putting money into something with this. And kind of around the world, tourism shut down, and especially in Anchorage. And that's where the money is for Airbnb. Summer's up here, tourism. So this was early 2020, like winter, spring 2020. And we're like, well, shoot, that was going to be our main plan. We're going to get we get 5 or 6 units. They'll each profit $1,000 a month. That'll be good to live on. And then we can grow from there. And that kind of disappeared. Well, that's maybe still an opportunity for the future, but that's not going to work for this summer because the governor just said, do not visit Alaska.
Yeah. And so how did that affect your travel business as well?
That tanked as well. That was looking to be a good summer. We had several clients lined up. We were already starting to book their stuff, create itineraries for them. We had a few others that we were talking with that were really interested in coming. And yeah, none of them came.
Yeah, because of that happened.
I can't blame them. I mean, the state was telling them not to come. The president was telling them not to travel. Airlines and all the local activities were pretty much shutting down. It was, yeah. So I was really unfortunate in that was our main plan for producing income. But thankfully, we had the backup of reselling. And at the time, that was going pretty good. I was struggling to scale the cherry picking of the books. You know, that's really time consuming. I know you did that a little bit at some point.
Yeah, I did that for actually on a pretty similar timeline, actually, maybe a little bit later, but I did cherry picking probably for 7 months, probably. It's definitely it's hard to scale it past a certain point because there's only so many books that you can find because you only have so much time.
Yeah.
And so you were doing that, you were struggling to scale the cherry picking operation.
I was still in the Army at this time, and so it was kind of juggling a full-time job while trying to grow 2 businesses to the point. I knew like I'm getting out of the Army like fall of 2020. I think it was September was when I was supposed to get out. So I kind of had like, this is the deadline. We got to figure something out. And so I started looking into the reselling again and running some numbers kind of off of a lot of 𝗬𝗏 spreadsheets. Like, if this is how much you want to sell, this is how many books you need, this is what average sell-through rate is, this is how many you need to sell per week at this ASP, and how many you need to source per week, et cetera, et cetera. And after running those numbers, like, holy smokes, I need a lot of books in order to,
Right.
yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were making money off it. And at some point, I think maybe around summer of 2020, I realized I'm having trouble. There's a couple problems. I don't have enough time to cherry pick this number of books. It takes way too long to ship media mail from Alaska to California. It was taking around 3 weeks on average to barge it out of the state.
So to get stuff checked in.
Yeah. So I'd buy a book, and in general, the earliest I could sell that book was like a month from now. So that's hard when you're trying to scale something and trying to build a big inventory. Really kills your momentum. The third problem, there just weren't enough traditional thrift stores in my area. I'd be going to every thrift store like twice a week, and it would be like, there's not really any new books. These are the same ones I saw the past 3 weeks. And they'd add their, like, 25 on the end of the shelf. So I started trying some different things, doing bulk pickups for free, did a lot of those. At some point that spring or summer, I hired 2 sourcers to source books locally for us. And that worked okay. They never were as motivated as I was, which is what I hear everyone say who's tried something like this. But ultimately, they did produce good books, and it was worth the time and money I invested. And so kind of gave them their territories to source. One was a little bit north, one was in my area, like gave them all the tips. These are the good stores. These are the days to go. Here's the coupons, etc. And then I started looking into retail arbitrage and doing that heavily. So still trying to like keep the books really heavy, but doing retail arbitrage at the same time. And there was a ton of potential with that. Now that I had some capital in the business, the retail arbitrage kicked off pretty good, doing all the usual stores and then a few kind of unique ones that I had access to as well. You did a lot of retail arbitrage starting out, right? After books?
Yeah, that was because I stopped doing books when the whole restock limits happened. And so my understanding of that was like, well, like Amazon would like us to sell faster moving stuff. So like I should do some retail arbitrage and like mix in some faster moving things so that I could have more books. That was always my goal at the start. But yeah, then it turned into more retail. So what was that retail arbitrage like for you? We've talked before, you came across a couple really good opportunities in retail arbitrage, didn't you?
Yeah, there's some stores on military bases that sometimes have unique opportunities. Found a few really good super clearance items, like 75% off, like rotting away in the back dusty corner. Bought like a cartload of those, and to this day that one brand is something that I still sell. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty good lead. That was probably about early 2020, I think I found that, actually. So I think I've been selling that brand for 2.5 years now. Yeah, made a killing off it. Here's kind of a funny story. I sold one of them. They had a price tag on there, and then they had like a 75% off sticker. And I sold it. I forgot to take the sticker off.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the customer gets it. I think I sold it for maybe $200 or $250. I paid about $18. And so the customer leaves a bad feedback on my account saying I paid X amount, and it has a sticker on there that says it was $99. I think it was $89.99. Amazon automatically removed the feedback. But the funny thing is they didn't know I paid 75% off of $89.99. Like, it was even worse than they thought.
Yeah. That is nuts. Yeah, those stickers can get you. You're probably glad you FBA'd it because, well, I'm pretty sure you get those removed if it's about price for merchant fulfilled?
For most of 2020, I was merchant fulfilling everything. Those in particular, I merchant fulfilled because, and maybe in hindsight, I could have run the numbers and it would have worked out. But in my mind, it was better for me to merchant fulfill than to ship a bunch of stuff to FBA because of high shipping costs here out of Alaska.
I see.
So I focused on first class kind of items that you can ship USPS for like $5 or so max. At the time, it's now like $6.58. Like it keeps going up. It's crazy. I was mostly merchant fulfilling back then. And that's what I knew and was most comfortable with because of my eBay stuff. I knew USPS pretty well. I worked for UPS a couple winters a little bit. So I kind of had like a good understanding of like, this is how you package something, because when the driver drop kicks it, this is the way to protect it. And they will drop kick that printer. I've seen, like, you sell some printers from time to time. I've seen printers thrown like 15 feet and they were fine, apparently. The customer didn't return it the next day, so I guess it was good.
Right.
Yeah, so retail arbitrage was going good. 𝗦𝗏𝗃, if you're doing retail arbitrage, I found some really good leads there. Kind of, it helps you find unmarked clearance. I found a couple good products at Office Depots in particular. I'd clear their shelves out. Even like the store manager, I'd be like, hey, random question, do you mind checking the price on this? And they check and they'd be like, oh, wow, that's 80% off. And I'm like, okay, how many do you have? I'd like all of them. They'd be like, all right, sounds good. Saves me having to mark it down and put stickers on them.
Right.
And they were like, I had to kind of pretend to be like, oh, wow, I'm shocked. It's 80% off. What are the odds?
When you saw it on 𝗏𝗃 the morning before.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like scrolling on 𝗏𝗃 and it's like, 𝗏𝗃 says they have 11 in stock. Let's see what the manager says. She's like, yeah, it says we have 11. I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds about right.
Wow, you have 11.
Huh. Yeah, I'll take them. And I'd be buying like full carts of like security cameras, and the people in line would be like, oh, you got a security problem, huh? I'm like, you can never be too safe, right?
Retail arbitrage is so awkward.
Like, I'm telling you, crime in the city is just skyrocketing.
Anchorage, Alaska.
They'd be like, you got a business you're getting cameras for? I'm like, yes, sir.
A lot of businesses.
The business is to resell them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so retail arbitrage was going good, and I did that for most of 20 we'll see, the latter half of 2020, and then most of 2021 was doing retail arbitrage.
So you really stuck with retail arbitrage a long time.
Yeah, I had a lot of good success, mostly merchant fulfilling. And then at some point in 2021, I started exploring online arbitrage.
So what led you to that?
Mostly it was really good RA leads that I found that sold really well for super high ROI. I was like that one brand I mentioned a few minutes ago that I've been selling for like 2 years. That was one of them. I was like, that was a killer deal. Where can I find more of these? And so I started finding them online, and mostly I was I'll say I was drop shipping. Don't recommend that if you're watching here. You got to be real careful with that.
Risk it for the biscuit.
Yes. I personally believe that there's ways to reduce risk if you're going to drop ship. That's another conversation. So I started exploring that, and then got a prep center to try to take advantage of some of the products that had a longer ship time that I couldn't really drop ship feasibly. That's how I started OA, and then made the transition towards the end of 2021 to try to go mostly fully OA. Because I was realizing the big thing when I was merchant fulfilling retail arbitrage is really time consuming to go to all the stores. And then I was spending a lot of time packing and prepping all this stuff. And I was running out of storage space in my office. I had like 5 or 6 racks, and like friends would come over and like watch our dog when we were gone and be like, what are you doing, man? This is kind of weird. Why do you have 30 of that Lego set? Why do you have 25 stacks of Pokemon cards? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's always a very strange thing having people over sometimes. Like when you're a reseller, you have these big racks of stuff and just like all this. It's a little silly. You just have to be like out and selling stuff.
The big thing for 2021 retail arbitrage was the chlorine, which at this point everyone knows how good that was. And surprisingly, there was actually a decent amount of chlorine on the shelves in Anchorage, as well as pools. And so I did really, really good with those two products in particular. Helps me up my cash flow. And I was buying, yeah, like cartloads and cartloads of chlorine. I probably bought like 90% of the chlorine in Anchorage that summer, because there's just like how many, I mean, a lot of people got hot tubs, but they're not really using those in the summer as much.
Right. Yeah. And it's like when there's an opportunity like that, you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That did really good for me. Then, yeah, online arbitrage been since like early 2022, been mostly OA with prep centers. And that's, had its own unique challenges, some of which about with, prep time and issues with prep centers not fulfilling their part of the deal in the way that was expected. And the biggest one being just the increased lead time. Now, instead of me purchasing something at Walmart and listing it that evening so that it could sell the next day and I could merchant fulfill it and then get my payout like 2 weeks from the day I purchased, now it's, depending on where you buy it from, roughly a week for it to get to the prep center, however many days they sit on it, and then a couple days for it to get to the FBA warehouse. And then, there's a guy in the warehouse that throws the dart at the dartboard and they're like, oh yes, FC transfer. Let's send this one to Timbuktu, 3 to 5 weeks. You got more lead time there. So you got to have a little bit more capital, a little bit more planning, and more cogs in the machine to be aware of than a simpler RA to MF operation. So a lot of learning there in mostly this year.
So how have you been dealing with that so far? Has it kind of been like an operation that potentially takes less time but takes more money, or like what does that look like for you?
Definitely. Yeah. I am spending a lot less time than I used to. I used to last year when I was doing heavy RA, I was probably spending around 40 hours a week, if not more. And a lot of that was driving around or looking at 𝗏𝗧, or I was in a couple Discord groups where they'd be dropping whatever the hot bolo was of the day. I had to be in those groups like pretty deep in order to get those hot things right when they became a really good opportunity. Which reminds me, ask me after. There's one I want to tell you about. Switching to OA with a prep center, I would say at the beginning of that was really time consuming to build different systems, to create those processes, and to start building like a list of these are the good products. These are the ways to source OA. And I would say even to this day, I'm not great at sourcing OA stuff. I can do pretty good sourcing eBay to Amazon flips, which is primarily what I do. But if you ask me to go find some leads from Walmart or Walgreens like everybody else does, I suck at that.
It's all a learning curve, definitely.
Yeah, it's a really different method than eBay, and I would say there's more competition, so it's a little bit harder. And so that's something I've never really learned, and maybe something I will work on in the future, so I have a little more diversity. I guess in the back of my mind, there's I don't have invoices for any of this stuff. It wouldn't be a bad thing to have a few more replenishable products in my catalog that I do have invoices for.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't really make a difference, because the random one I'm going to get an IP complaint from is probably going to be an eBay product. But I have gotten plenty of IP complaints from RA products and even a few OA products. And I had invoices for those, and sometimes Amazon took the invoice, sometimes they didn't. I have one in particular right now. It's a trademark complaint, I think, from an RA product that I bought like 2 years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago. It wasn't a great buy. The sales velocity was bad. And then I think Amazon hopped on and the price tanked. And I've sold like 3 a year. And I think they finally expired. It was like a plant fertilizer. And then out of nowhere, I get a trademark complaint. And I flipped through like 3 years of receipts. to find the Walmart receipt, and I found it and I uploaded it, and Amazon won't take it. I've uploaded it like 10 times. They're like, oh, that's not good. So it's like, well, I might as well have sourced it from eBay then, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a little ridiculous because like I've heard of people getting suspended with online arbitrage products that they have receipts for. It's kind of it would be cool to know if it was like the uncertainty of it makes it a little unsettling because it's like there'll be some people who get suspended like their first or second IP complaint, and then there'll be other people like I've talked to big booksellers, for example, who have like 20 plus IP complaints, and they don't do anything about it because they're both booksellers, and they don't even go into the yellow at all or anything. So it's interesting because it kind of depends on your account, like your volume, maybe your account age, like what your return rates might be like. I don't know if it actually the return rate matters, but that's probably a way to get less of them. It's definitely I don't quite know what to say, but it's online arbitrage versus eBay to Amazon versus RA. It's kind of like a toss up between like what do we put more time into. So you kind of do whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the original question you asked, I've spent this year focusing on lots of different spreadsheets, replenishable spreadsheets, and fine tuning how I source eBay products. And we've been pretty steady at around 60K in sales every month this year. So it doesn't look like we're scaling, but really what's happened is the amount of time I spend has significantly decreased from January to today. And so that's huge. And like I'm pretty happy with the revenue we're doing. Do want to scale it, but the biggest thing for me was decreasing the amount of time. And so that's been a huge benefit. Having a VA, having better spreadsheets, better accounting, better tracking systems has really been what's helped reduce the amount of time spent.
Yeah, and like all of that time doing RA, all of that time like and like learning how to do it, all that time learning how to do eBay, all that time at the beginning of online arbitrage building all those systems and like understanding that these are the products I source and like having records for that, like all of that time and learning really does add up. And like over time, it really snowballs into being able to do this more effectively and with less time and make more money at the same time. That's kind of how it is at the very beginning. At the beginning, it's hard to get to like a critical mass if you're just putting 3, 5 hours a week into this. Like at some point you need to just like put your head down and like learn it, and then after several months like the time really does go down a lot.
Yeah, it's like I want passive income. It's like, okay, I don't know what you think about the word passive income. I'm not a super big fan of it, but if you want something that's a passive income producing thing, it seems like you're going to have to put in a lot of time at the beginning to create something.
Yeah.
And right there, that means it's not passive. Like, and Amazon is one of those things. And here's kind of a pro sourcing tip for anyone watching that hasn't done this. In doing all that RA, I now have a really long list of potential products. And from time to time, I go through my sold catalog from the last couple years, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if this product is still good. Oh yeah, look at that. And I've found like last month there was a product I was selling really really good last year, and then like the price on Amazon kind of tanked and some other stuff, and I recently found it. I found a source where I could buy it at a good price, and the Amazon price had gone back up, and so I bought some more of them. So the longer you do it, the more leads you have, the more experience you can kind of just walk through Walmart when you're getting your groceries and you're like, that looks like a really interesting product. I'm gonna look that one up. And it might pan out to be something that could be a really good OA or RA. And you don't like, you can't write down on a piece of paper, like, okay, this product is good because looking at it, it meets these 5 things. I mean, it's kind of just intuition that you build over time.
That's so true. I remember even a couple days ago having a conversation about how you go into like a store and like see all their products and be like, oh, like I know what price range I'd usually buy these for. And like these, like they're really quick moving, but I can never find them at the right price. And your friends talking about stuff. And you're like, I was at a dinner the other day and a teacher was talking about like a like a product that she had that she was trying to help her students with. And I'm like, oh, I know about that. I sell those.
Yeah, you're like, can you tell me the UPC? Let me look that up real quick.
I looked it up and I was like, oh, I don't sell that model number, but I know that brand, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy the number of brands that I now recognize, like little obscure brands for things that I never as a consumer would ever look into.
Right. Like we want them for the profit margin.
Yeah, I know maybe a like weird amount of information about like women's curling irons. I don't usually admit that. So
yeah, it's just wild. There's just so many products out there. There's so many opportunities. And like about the passive income thing, it's not passive income, but the app really sure does get much, much, much better. Something that I did a lot of this as I was starting Amazon to like help myself progress is I'd keep track of how many hours I worked on Amazon, and I would keep track of the potential profit that I sent into Amazon. And so with those two things, you can kind of divide your time and like kind of see a pseudo hourly type thing, because of course stuff doesn't sell exactly the way you think it's going to, but you can control those controllables and figure out like, I did 11 hours of prep this week. Is there a way I can make that 3 hours? Like, can I hire that out? Because as soon as I work 3 hours instead of 11 hours, like your hourly goes up. So like, how can we make that work? And you can do that with so many different things to lower your time and to increase your hourly with this. And the skills definitely do stack.
yeah, that's a really good perspective. Because like for us, if you just looked at our revenue, it looks like we're not growing. But then if you look at how many hours we're spending, our hourly rate has just been growing and growing and growing. And that's what's really, really cool. That gives us freedom to work on other business ventures, to spend time just as a family, or go fishing.
Exactly. And so also another thing is about Josiah's travel business. He actually was telling me the other day that he went fishing in 𝗠𝗏, Alaska. And so I was just curious. So I typed it. It was 3 hours south of him. So I just was curious, typed it into Google. 3 hours south was this tiny little sliver in Alaska. Like it was 3 hours is a long time. Like across Colorado, that's like half the state, maybe. Across Alaska, he's in Anchorage, 3 hours south. Like usually I think the ocean is south of Anchorage, but no, there's another 3 hours in a little sliver there. So what he does with his travel business is, if you're ever curious about learning how to go to Alaska and make the most of your time there, it's actually a pretty complicated thing because it's such a big state. And so planning from people who actually know what they're doing is really helpful in that regard. So that's what Josiah does as part of what he does for his business, he and his wife. And also, if you don't know about his YouTube is Entreprenagel. It's going to be in the description below. You should definitely check him out. He talks about Amazon. He's actually doing a $0 to $1,000 in a month challenge. I'm surprised we didn't talk about that at all, but we had a lot of story to dig into. But yeah, that's being uploaded on his channel, and I always watch that with popcorn in my hand, and it's a bunch of fun. So should definitely give him a watch on YouTube. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Josiah. This was fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's always a blast to chat with you.
Yeah, man. Have a good one. Take care.
You too. See you, Seth.